Hi guys, welcome to our second session for week 1. Today we're going to go through, we're talk a little bit about the discussion, and then we're going to talk about the assignment and assessment and do our demos, and we're going to have a little practice. So make sure you have your Dreamweaver open so you can kind of follow along with me and help get your mind into coding mode. So today we are going to go through responsive web design and talk about it a little bit. We're going to, which will lead to the week 1 discussion. And then we're going to talk about the assignment and the assessment, and then we're going to do some practice, and then we'll do the demos. Our next lecture is Sunday at 9 a.m. So when you hear the words responsive web design, what do you think? Everybody knows what that is, right? Or you guys are familiar with responsive web design, right? You see it on your cell phones and your tablets every day. Or when you make your browser on your desktop bigger or smaller, some websites will scale. That means they're responsive. Responsive web design is normally done in rows and columns, kind of like this example here. This very top box, you've got the header up there, but then you've got this big picture underneath it. That would be considered one row. And then below that, you see the 2 smaller squares. That would be considered one row with 2 columns. So it's pretty much just like designing for print design as far as columns go. So your discussion this week, what should you be considered when designing a good user interface for responsive layouts? Well, yesterday we went over the user interface basics and things you needed to keep in mind. So just do some research on what things should be considered when laying out a website for mobile devices. List at least 3 considerations. Most of what we talked about yesterday, no, take that back. All of what we talked about yesterday should be considered on desktop, tablet, and mobile devices. You're going to find some other specific things just for mobile devices as well. And then just tell me what they are and why they should be considered in relation to a good user interface. You can Google designing a good user interface for responsive layouts and find all kinds of stuff. You can Google designing a good user interface for mobile devices and pull up some really specific stuff. So let's talk about our week 1 assignment. To help you get started with coding your first website using Dreamweaver, there are a few things that can help make the connection between the code behind the scenes and what the browser actually reads or shows you when you pull up a web page on the internet. The main thing to remember is let the code be your friend. Don't get frustrated. Remembering those basics we went over yesterday, that every tag except for the 2 of them have beginning and end tags. You have an opening tag and an ending tag. Do you remember which 2 tags do not have an opening and an ending? The image tag, yes, the IMG tag only has an opening tag. And the line break tag, absolutely, that's correct. You just need to remember, guys, all it is a language, and it's actually written in English. HTML has made it so much simpler. And no matter where you're at, you speak English, and you kind of got to think that simplicity because HTML has simplified that coding for us. So this week, this first assignment, you're kind of going to dissect it a little bit and get a little bit more familiar with it by creating your headers and your footer. And lining them up, making them responsive, that sort of thing. So let's talk about your header and the footer, because that's mainly what the assignment is over. Is you're going to be setting those two things up. Part one, it's a 2 parts for your assignment. Part one is to download the assets and put them on your desktop. That is going to be the easiest place to store them, to make sure you're in the right file every single week. So you're going to download those files and you're going to extract it and you're going to set up your files. If you don't define your site correctly, doing the next 3 weeks assignment will cause errors and will make it difficult for your instructor or learning coach to troubleshoot your files. Make sure you get part one correct. I'm going to walk you through it step by step. Make sure you get it correctly and it's working right. And I will show you, after I've showed you how to put it together, how to check and make sure that you are set up correctly. The rest of part one, after downloading the zip files and unzipping it, distracting everything and getting it all set up, you're going to move the folder, the zip file created, from your downloads to a place on your computer. I strongly suggest you put it on your desktop. That way it's easy to find and you don't run any trouble. Here's the thing to remember, guys. If you put it on your desktop for the next 4 weeks, you cannot move it. If you move that folder to a new location, you have to reset up your site in Dreamweaver because it will no longer be set up correctly. It's a good idea to give this folder a permanent place on your computer. Moving it will cause Dreamweaver to lose the links from all over your site, which is going to cause you all kinds of headaches, because none of your work is going to be correct because your site wasn't linked properly. Inside the folder, you're going to find a few things. Everything you will need to build your site over the next 4 weeks in Dreamweaver. You're going to find your site map. You're going to find your wireframe. You're going to find the root folder. You're going to find a folder that has images. These are not the same images you will link your root folder to. They are images you're going to use in weeks 3 and 4. You're going to locate the root folder, launch Dreamweaver, and define your site. And to help you with that, there's quite a few things. I'm going to demo it. There's also a video in the course media page about setting up and defining your site. Or you can read the instructions on how to set up a local version on your computer through Dreamweaver in the course media page as well. You're going to set up the navigation structure and create a menu for this site. That is your assignment. Part one, you're just going to set up that header and you're going to build your navigation. Part two, we will be demonstrating this as well. There are a basic structure already in place. You'll be building on this page and adding pages to this same root folder throughout the rest of the mod. So don't move it, don't throw it away. After you have submitted each week's assignment or assessment that you've been working on, you're going to keep the exact same root folder. Don't duplicate it for every week. Work from the exact same folder. Just rename your zip files. When you zip it every week, just rename that zip file to what it's supposed to be called. DS248 week 1, your first and last name, that sort of thing. On part 2, you're going to open the index.html. And you're going to change the title tag to read Lawn Care and Landscaping without quotes. Attach the provided style.css sheet, and then you're going to style the header, navigation, and logo placements per the provided mock-up of the home page for all 3 screen sizes with media queries. Check to make sure the page has been named correctly and the header content resembles the PSD mock-up, and the CSS media queries are modified for each screen size to make it responsive. And then you're going to zip the root folder. Rename that root folder, that zip file, DS248 Lawn Care Site. Your first and last name. This kind of has it backwards. The directions are actually backwards. Either way you want to do it. You can do DS241, assignment 1, your first and last name like you normally do. Or you can do DS248, your first, last name, assignment 1. I will accept it. You'll get the points for either one. Now, for your assessment, websites have footers that contain information that need to show on every website. More often than not, in addition to copyright information, they also include site maps in case any of the links in the site become broken. Social media links and other content like privacy policy and career opportunities, things like that. It's all based on what you and your client decide you need in that area, or what the company needs in that area. For the assessment, you will be styling the footer tags contents based on the PSD file of the homepage mockup. Your styling, positioning content, making the header responsive should make the assessment quite straightforward. You're basically doing the same thing. This time you're just doing it to the footer. If you run into any problems, be sure you rewatch the demo or send me an email. So our learning objective specifically for the assessment is going to be to understand and apply basic HTML syntax, understand and apply basic CSS syntax, and create HTML pages and links with hyperlinks. So we've gone through our assessment overview. Now, the assessment has some specific instructions too. And guys, use these steps as check marks to make sure you get everything. You're going to open the index page, and you're going to structure and style the footer content using your CSS. Make it look like the PSD. Once the footer and header are exactly the way they should look in all 3 screen sizes, then you're going to duplicate the index HTML page 4 times. Make sure these pages are put into the same root folder the index HTML file is in. One of the 4 copies, you're going to rename the file to services.html. You're going to change the title tag to say Lawn Care Landscaping Services. On the next of the 4 copies, rename the file to Gallery, change the title to Lawn Care Landscaping Gallery, name the next page Crew.html, and change the title tag to say Meet Lawn Care Landscaping Crew. On the last copy, that's going to be your contact page. So you're going to rename the file contact.html and change the title tag to Contact Lawn Care Landscaping. And then you're going to open each of the 5 pages and create hyperlinks to all the other pages. I'm going to show you how to do this on your index page so that every time you save the file, do a save as to change the name, it will automatically do all this linking. So you won't have to open every single page and do it 5 different times. Then you're going to test the page and make sure everything's correctly linked, that all your buttons work. And you're going to verify that each title tag has been changed and matches the new page. And then you're going to zip the root folder, and you're going to rename it DS248 Assessment 1, your first and last name. Any questions on the actual instructions? They're pretty clear. They're pretty specific. Use those parts 1, part 2, and the numbered list on the assessment as a checklist to make sure you get everything. So let's do some practicing. Raven, do you have your Dreamweaver open? Okay, I'm going to share my desktop here. and pull my Dreamweaver to the front. So let's just do some simple practice. So just go to File and go to New. And then choose HTML and hit Create. Brian, we are doing some HTML practice. If you want to open up your Dreamweaver, you can join us. On the new document box, once you've chosen HTML, just hit Create. Now at the top of the screen, you should have 3 words, Code Split Live. Make sure you select Split. Raven, let me know when you've got that part done. Brian, I know you're going to be a little bit behind us because you're having to open Dreamweaver, but that's okay. Okay, you're done. So based on what you remember yesterday, what's the first thing we should do? Okay, Brian, well, you can just follow along and practice later. The first thing you always want to do is change the title, because it's always going to say untitled document, and it's really easy to forget to change that title if you've waited to the end to do it, because it's just, oh my gosh, I'm done coding, and you save and it's done, and guess what? You forgot to put a title on it. So yeah, we're going to put a title on there. Just do my first website. Yeah, you can just do my first website. Anything you want up there is fine. Okay, now then, we need to start making our header. What 2 tags do we have to work between in order for it to display in the web browser? The head content, that's where your title and your SEO stuff goes, your descriptions, your keywords, that sort of thing. We have to work between the body tags. Yes, the body tags. So you're going to put your cursor right after that opening body tag, and you're going to hit enter. And the first thing we have to do is our header. So what's our header tag look like? Yep, you have your bracket, header, and then a bracket, and it will do the end bracket for you. Just going to hit your enter key. So now your cursor's between the 2 header tags. And then we're just going to type the word welcome and put an exclamation behind it. That's going to be our header. So now we need to do the main part of our website that goes underneath our header. So we need to do what kind of tags? Yes, main tags. hit your enter key so your cursor's between it. And just do a simple sentence. Hi, my name is Misty. Let's make this an H2. I'm going to cut that. And I'm going to do, let's make it an H1. Let's do an H1 tag there. And do my name is Misty. And then do an H2 tag. And talk about your plan for graduation. You're going to graduate with your best of 2018. And then do a paragraph tag. And you can put anything in this paragraph you want to put. This basically, guys, this is just practice. Put anything down there, but do at least 2 sentences. Oh, maybe I should really, that doesn't apply because you're a graphic design student. So there we go. Okay, so we've got our main content. So now we need to do our footer. So what is our tag? So you have a footer tag. And in your footer, let's do an H3 tag. And I just created my very first website. So now you have code that should look like this. Has everybody got it? So your live view should look similar to this. So now we're going to go back to Split. And we're going to talk a little bit with your assignment and assessment. You're going to be using external style sheets. But what about embedded style sheets? you would hit your source code over here and simply do define in page. This is what happens. If you scroll back up to your head content, now you have these two rules on line 6 and 7 that say style. You have an opening style tag and a closing style tag. This is going to create an embedded style. So let's do the first style. I'm going to click down here into my header tag. It highlights it orange. And come over to my CSS designer. And I'm going to hit the plus sign next to selectors. And it's going to say body header. I'm going to erase body. I like my rules simpler. So I usually put them down to one word, sometimes two if I need it to be really specific, but this is just general, so I'm going to make it say header. You see, it automatically gives me the tags, and I choose my properties. We're going to go to the text properties. Give your font a color of your choice. And pick a font family. And then pick a size. Make the size pretty large. Not large enough. So I'm going to make it even larger. And center it. You can change the font weight to bold or light, whichever. Just set those play with those properties right there. If you want to play with the drop shadow, go ahead and add a drop shadow to it. That's the basic styles for your header. And you can see in Dreamweaver on lines 6 through 15, it added all that code for you. So now we need to start with your main tag. I want to do the main area in a color. I want it to be colored. And I only want it to be 80% of the screen width. So I'm going to set my percent to 80 once I make my selector rule. How do we make that selector rule again? Click in the tag and then hit the plus sign next to selector. You may have to retype it. When I hit mine, it came up as a P tag instead of the main tag. And then set your width to 80%. And then you can set your text the color. And center align it. And let's set your borders. You can set them to whichever one you want to set it to. No, I want it a little thicker than that. Like that. So I'm going to set my pixels. And then we need to set your background color. And I'm going to have to go back and adjust my font size. It's too big. That. And that does the main tag. So now we need to set our H2. It's a little big compared to my H1. I'm going to make it a little smaller. I'm going to simply click inside that H2 tag and hit the plus sign in selectors. I'm going to erase everything but H2. Do you have to do that? As I said, no. I just like to keep things simpler. It's easier to scan when I'm having to scan it looking for a problem. So I erase everything that I can possibly erase and just leave the one identifying mark. And then I am going to go to my fonts and I want to change the size a little bit. Too small. So small is too small. Medium, large, larger. That's better. And it's centered for me. Then I have my paragraph font. So I'm going to go down and find that P tag. I'm going to put my cursor in it, hit my plus sign. Erase everything but that P. And this time I'm going to change the text to color. And I'm going to left align it. And it needs some padding. It's a little too close to the edge for my liking. So I'm going to add some padding on the right and on the left. Now then, our box actually looks a little too small. Which tag did we make the border box in? The main tag, yes. So we're going to go back to that main tag. I'm going to click back on my border properties. And no, my width, I'm sorry. It's a little too small for my liking. Let's try 90%. Better, not quite. Let's try 98%. Oops. Not pixels, percent. Compare that to my heading. That looks better. Yes, that looks lots better. So now we just have our footer. So let's work on our footer rules. So we're going to go down to our footer tag, click in it, hit that plus sign. I'm going to erase the word body. So we just have footer. And go to my type. We have an H3 in that footer. Let's set the background color of our footer first. I want to duplicate this red color that I'm using. So I'm going to use the eyedropper and just click on that color and hit my enter key. And I want to set the minimum height to be 25 pixels. Maybe more than that. Let's try 70 pixels. That's better. And I want to bump my text down so it looks like it's aligned better. Vertical line. I want to go middle. Might even move it to the bottom. I think middle would do is better. Then I'm going to go up to my padding, and I'm just going to shift it. And once again, I'm going to do that 11 pixels of padding that I did on the paragraph. So it shifts it over a little bit more. It looks like it could use a little bit more than that. So there is my footer color. So now I want to redefine that H3 tag. I'm going to put my cursor in the tag and hit my plus sign. There's that H3. And I'm going to go to my text properties, set my color to white, font family, and then my font size. It's better, and I want to center it. And it looks like I need to go back and adjust my padding just a little bit. Back up here, there it is. And I'm gonna, there, I'm gonna add just a little bit on the bottom, so it's more centered. So this is the very first website. And this is our code. This, for your assignment and assessment, will be found on an external sheet, so it'll be in a separate file, but it's going to look exactly the same. And there's the little bit of code you did to accomplish this. It really is that simple, guys. You just have to think simple. So is everybody in coding mode now? Are we ready to start the demos? Yeah, okay. I'm going to close this out. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to download those starter files. And then you're going to put them on your desktop. And I put mine on my desktop somewhere. Let me find them. There they are. Do they have to be on your desktop? No, but it's usually the simplest place to keep them. Just remember, wherever you put them, you have to leave them for the next 4 weeks. You can't move those files around. So you're going to unzip it. And going to open that folder so you can see what's inside it. This is where you're going to find everything. The folder called DES248 Lawn Care Site, that folder is your site root folder. You're also going to find a folder inside that main folder that says Lawn Care PSD Mockup and Copy. We won't be using that. Well, we won't be using the copy this week. You'll be using that PSD though. You're also going to find a folder that says Lawn Care Site Images. These are images we will be using in week 3 or 4. They are not the same as the images folder that's in your site root folder. When you have to link your images in Dreamweaver, you're going to link them to your site root images folder, not the Lawn Care Site Images folder. You also find the Lawn Care Wireframe PDF. And we're going to open that because this is where we're going to start. This is the wireframe of the home page. This is one of the things I love about wireframes because there's no color. It's in black and white, so it's very, very easy to identify the rows and columns. How many rows do we have? Remember, your header and your footer count as a row. So how many rows are on this page? It's 5. This is just an empty space. This isn't actually a row. Yeah, it's 5. So in row 1, which is right here, and then this is row 2, and then 3, 4, and 5. So how many columns does row 2 have in it? 1. 1 row. How many columns does row 2 have in it? I mean, row 3. This is 3. It has 2 columns. And then row 4, how many columns are in row 4? That's right, 4 columns. This is the easiest and most helpful way to figure out exactly the div tags you're going to need and to help you figure out your CSS, because we know for certain in the desktop size for this website, that's the wireframe we're looking at right now, it's the desktop size, that when they view it on their desktop, that each of these columns needs to be set to your screen is 100%. So if I need to get 2 columns to fit on that screen, they need to be 50%. Your row, this one would be set to 100. Your 2 columns are set to 50%. Or thereabouts, but I'll explain that later. And the 4 columns, where would you start for percentages there? 4 columns need to fit in 1 row, so they need to be 25%. So that's the desktop. Let's take a look at the tablet view. This is your tablet view. So now you still have the same number of rows. Your columns have just gotten bigger. It's not additional code. You just resize the columns to make it look like there's additional rows. So you still have a row here. This is still row 2, and this is row 3. But your sizing is a little different. This is still 100%, right? Still 1 solid row. This is still 50%. But these 4 change. What are they set at now? Remember, the size of your screen is 100%. So that means these boxes go from being 25% on the desktop to 50% on the tablet view. So now let's take a look at the mobile version. Everything is set to what? All of your rows and columns are set to what? 100%, because they are 100% of the screen size. So all of these are set to 100% because they are 100% the width of that display screen. Make sense? Okay, so now that we've got the wireframe down, We've looked at it. We've kind of got that idea in our head of what we need to do. We know that in desktop, our logo needs to be centered. Our navigation bar should be vertical instead of horizontal. We know that our social media icons should be centered. And that the footer text is centered underneath the social media icons. It sets automatically, Sean, if you set the CSS. You have to create the CSS to do this. And we're going to go through exactly how to do that in just a few minutes. So there's our cell phone. Everything is centered. That's the thing we need to remember. Everything's centered. The navigation bar is vertical instead of horizontal. On the tablet view, well, it's different. Logo is still centered, but our navigation bar is what changes. It becomes horizontal instead of vertical. And then on the desktop, everything changes. The logo is on the left. The navigation bar is still horizontal, but now it's on the right instead of centered. And then our social media icons are on the right. And our footer text is on the left. So now let's go back. We've looked at our wireframe. We've got it down. So let's check out, let's check out our PSD. Let me grab it. I'm going to open this Photoshop file. And it's going to show us in detail exactly what our website's supposed to look like. Because you're going to need to have a piece of paper handy, guys, because you're going to have to write down some information about colors. You're going to need to know exactly what color you're supposed to be using. Because you're going to have to edit some of your rules. Oh, my Photoshop is being awfully slow today. Just an FYI, guys, Photoshop and Dreamweaver do not like to be open together. Kind of like Muse and Photoshop don't like to be open together. This are our websites. Here's the desktop view. Let's zoom in there so we can see this. So all of your stuff is inside your web page already, except for your social media icons. You do have to place those in there. Other than that, these images and stuff are already there. You just have to write the CSS to move them and size them appropriately. So let's take a look at this. I want you to notice something here, guys. This is your browser window. This entire box is the browser window, right? So your footer color is supposed to stretch the browser window width. But this box here, imagine this little shape box here, this is the actual website size. Whereas this larger part is more your browser. This is set to 1024, which is going to be exactly your browser, your screen size if you're working on a laptop. So with that in mind, your work area, your website area, the visual stuff on your website is all centered inside this 1024 box. So how much of the screen does that take up? You had to estimate how much does it take up? 80%. Let's measure it and see exactly how wide it is. It's 960 pixels wide is the area in which all of your stuff shows. Does that make sense? While the page is 1024, the actual content inside that page is only 960 pixels wide. Keep that in mind, jot it down somewhere. You're going to need that information.
Privigen has been shown to improve short-term memory.
So now let's check our colors. I'm going to grab my eyedropper. There it is. And I'm going to click on this green background color and then grab my selection tool again. I'm going to double click it. Jot down this pound number. You're going to need it. And then you're going to do the same thing to that footer color. I'm going to click on it. Double click that green square. Copy that number down. And it's the exact same color all the way through our website. Now, the other thing you're going to want to note is the order in which your navigation bar is supposed to be and the order in which your social media icons are supposed to be. So navigation goes, oops. You've got services, and then gallery, and then the crew, and then contact. And your social media goes Facebook, Twitter, no, Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter. And they'll stay in the same order on every single page, but they are in a specific order. So then I'm going to close my Photoshop because, again, Dreamweaver and Photoshop do not get along that well. Sometimes you have no problems, and other times Dreamweaver suddenly gets really glitchy and slow, so I always shut it down. So I'm going to open Dreamweaver back up. We've got our files unzipped. We've explored them. We've taken our notes. So now we're going to open Dreamweaver. First thing you're going to do is go to the very top menu bar. Way up here. And you're going to click on Site. And then you're going to click on New Site. And I'm simply going to name it Lawn Care. Under Local Site folder, you're going to click this folder icon right there. Click it, and it's going to open up your Finder box. You're going to go to where you moved that folder to. In my case, it's on my desktop. DS248 Student Start Files. And then you're going to click on your site root folder. DS248 Lawn Care Site. And you're going to hit Choose. And then you're going to go to the Advanced Settings. Right here. You're going to hit the little drop down. And you're going to click on Local Info. And right here where it says Default Image, you're going to click that folder icon again. Make sure you are in your site root folder, the DS248 Lawn Care Site. And then you're just going to click on that Images folder and hit Choose. Once you've done all of that, then you're going to hit Save. It's going to give you a message. The root folder you have chosen is the same as the folder for site. You won't get this exact message. It's going to tell you creating new cache or something like that. But because I have had this file on here before, I get this nice little message. I'm going to proceed anyway. Now then, here is where you check to make sure you've done it correctly. You're going to go to your Files tab. If your Files tab is not open, you don't see that Files tab, you're going to go to Windows, and you're going to go down and you're going to click on Files, and it will open up your Files box. Drag it over here. If it opens, it's going to be loose. Drag it over to the side and just put it in there. You're going to use that Files box a lot. So now that we're on the Files tab, you're going to look right here underneath Local Files. In this folder, that very first folder should say Site-Lawn Care. If it's not already expanded for you, hit this little down arrow and it'll expand. You should see your images folder, your index.html, and your CSS style sheet, your styles.css file. If you do not see those three things and only those three things, then you've done it wrong and you need to redo it. Your images folder will have images in it, but it shouldn't expand unless you expand it. Then you'll have a bunch of images. That's fine. But the three main files you should see are the images folder, the index.html, and the styles.css. If you do not see those, or you see more than that, then you have done this wrong and you need to redo it. And remember, if you get it wrong this week and it's not correct, not only am I going to have a hard time telling you what you need to do, because not having your site set up correctly will make Dreamweaver act all kinds of funny. It's going to mean you're going to have a very difficult time doing your homework because your pictures aren't going to show up because they're not linked properly. And so everything's going to look all messed up, and I'm not going to be able to tell you how to exactly to fix it if it's because your site's not set up correctly. Unless, of course, you come in and see me in the SSC or you email me your files. And then sometimes when you email them to me, I can tell you didn't set up your site properly. Otherwise, you have to see me in the SSC so I can actually see what you're looking at. So now that we've got our site up properly, our directions told us to, let's go back to the assignment. We downloaded it, we moved the folder, we set it up on our computer, we opened the folder and explored it, we located the root folder and we linked it to Dreamweaver. Now we need to set up the navigation structure and can create a menu for the site. Now, so first thing we're going to do is open your index.html file. Go to split view. There's all of our stuff. Now here is the kicker, guys. Wrap your brain around this now. Your CSS style sheet is set up so that your mobile version is the default size, whereas you have media queries for the tablet view and the desktop view. So this is what I would suggest you do. Is on your index HTML file. All of you should see this little gray bar right here. You're going to take that gray bar, you're going to click on it and drag it. Drag it over to like 500 pixels, 450 pixels, anywhere in there will work. It will just help you visualize what you're doing if you can see how it's working, because you're going to be working in the cell phone view first. So all the changes you make to your CSS, you won't actually see them in the desktop view, meaning if you have this extended, it's showing you desktop. If it's at 768, it's going to show you the tablet view. So anything less than 768, about 500, 450, 420, anywhere in there will show you the actual cell phone view. And since that's the CSS you're working on, that is the view you should actually start in. So just pull that gray bar over so that's what you see on your artboard. It will make it easier for you guys to visualize and follow along with what you're doing. So we know that we need to fix the background color. That's the first thing you should do, is set up your background colors to be correct. And we need to link our CSS style sheet so we can do that. So let me hit my clear drawing there. So you're going to go over and you're going to click on your CSS Designer tab. Again, if it's not open, just go up to Windows and go to CSS Designer. You're going to be using it quite frequently too, unless you want to type it all. So once it's open, drag it over there and attach it to the side so you can easily access it. So you're going to click on that CSS Designer tab. And then you're going to click this plus sign. Click the plus sign. And you're going to do attach existing CSS file. And you're going to hit browse. Go to your site root folder and click on the styles.css and hit open and then hit OK. Now, once you've done that, you see it gives you some media queries, gives you your little purple bars. Once you've done that, you also notice you have this styles.css label right here at the top of your screen. Well, you're going to click on that styles.css. And it's going to take you from looking at your HTML code to looking at your CSS code. This is where we're going to start. We're going to set our background first. So what rule do you think we need to change to set the background color? Visual elements are found between what tags in your browser? The body tags, right? That's where we always start, between the body tags, because we want everybody to be able to see what we put there. So the background color gets set in the body rule. You notice there's already a background property there. You can change it to what it's supposed to be. You can either change it by typing out the color or going over to your selectors here and scrolling down and finding that body rule. And then you can go to background properties, click the swatch, and type the number at the bottom. You can do it whichever way you prefer to do it. I'm just going to type it in here. So it should be C6 DDD1. And it turns just that bluish green color. So that does the background for the color for the background of the entire website. But I need to fix that footer. So I'm going to go over here. This time I'll use the selectors. You can also, if you don't want to scroll through and try to find stuff, you can click right here inside this little search box and type out what you're looking for. And it'll sort through everything for you. I'm going to click on the footer. I'm going to go to the background properties. And I'm going to set the color here, right here at the bottom. This should say 85B089. My enter key. And there's our footer color. Occasionally, go to File, go to Save All. This will save you. In case Dreamweaver crashes, you won't be starting over from scratch. So every so often, remember to go up there and hit File and Save All. So if it crashes, you at least only have to redo the little bit that you didn't save. So now that we have our background and we have our footer background, we'll start at the top and work our way down. So we're going to start with the logo. I'm going to go to my source code right there at the top. Just click on source code and it takes you back to your HTML code. And I'm going to look at this image code and see if it has a class on it. This does. Here's our image tag. And inside that image tag, it says class style-logo. So I need to be searching the CSS to see if this rule exists, right? Let's see if there is a style.logo rule. I'm going to click in the search in the CSS designer. Style doesn't look like there is. Style-logo. Nope, there's not one that already exists. I'm going to put my cursor inside that class. And we are going to, can you guys see me? I accidentally paused the sharing. Did it come back? Yes? We're going to hit this little plus sign right here for selectors. And it gives us this dot row, dot column, dot style logo. We need to leave the dot in front of style. I'm going to erase the rest of it. It should say dot style dash logo. And I'm going to hit my enter key. Now we need to center that image. You can center images. Easiest way is go to your text property and hit center. Is that in a div tag? Oh, that's in a div tag. It may not let me do that. So we have to go to margins. If you set your margin to auto and auto, file, save all. We are going to actually have to set a rule for our columns. Let me go back to the wireframe. Is everything centered? Yep, it is. So we're going to actually have to set a rule for our column because our image is inside two div tags. It is interesting. Okay, so we'll go to our column rule. It is made for you. Just type in COL. I thought it was. Let me check our CSS. Nope, the column rule isn't made for you. Huh. So you're going to have to set your column rule. Again, put your cursor in that selector, hit the plus sign. It's going to give you the dot row, dot column. I'm going to erase the dot row and leave it dot column. Go to text and center it. Automatically centers everything. Easiest way to center stuff. If it was just an image that wasn't in a div class, you could have done the same thing with the text property on the image tag and hit center and it would have centered it. But it's in a div tag. So you have to center the text in the div tag in order to center the image. So there we go. Our logo is done and look what it did to our navigation bar for us. Woohoo! We still have some stuff we need to do because those dots, for one, aren't supposed to be there. And they should be a little more spaced out. And they're supposed to be, what color? Do you guys remember what color they're supposed to be? I don't remember what color they're supposed to be either. Black, I think. Black, I think so. Yes, they're supposed to be black. So we're going to work on our navigation bar first. Where do we need to look to find our navigation? What tags should we be searching for? In our HTML code, we should be looking for the what tag? The nav tag, yes, and it's right there. So our navigation is this unordered list. You notice this tag right here, the href equals #. That is the link to other pages. We have to edit this because this # should actually be to that page. So instead of having a # on that first one, it should say services.html. And then the gallery should say gallery.html. File names should always be lowercase, guys. So that means you like your index page. It says index.html. It's lowercase. The file name is lowercase. The services page, it should be lowercase. And then we have the crew, which is just crew.html. And then replace the # for contact us with just contact.html. So now we need to write a few rules to make our navigation work the way it's supposed to. We've got a style nav. Let's see if we have that rule made for us. Nope, so we're gonna have to make it too. Do we need it for the screen size? No. So we do need a UL rule though. I'm gonna hit my + on this. The words are already there. You just have to replace that # with the file name that it's going to be. It already has the word services for you. All of this code is already there for you. You're just editing it and adding the CSS rules. So you have to replace the # with the actual file name, which is services.html, and gallery and crew and contact. And it automatically will link to that file once you make that file. Right now it's not linked to anything because the services HTML doesn't actually exist yet, but it will by the time you're done with your assessment. So now we are going to work on our unordered list because we need to get rid of those little dots. Does anybody remember from yesterday how I showed you to get rid of those dots? Do you remember when we were talking about the CSS yesterday? The list style type to none. That's correct. So I'm going to click in that UL tag and hit the +. And it's going to give me this dot column, dot style nav UL. I'm going to erase the dot column. I do want to make sure that it specifies only the UL tag within the dot style nav tag. Why? Because I don't want it to affect all of my unordered list, just this specific one inside the navigation bar. So I'm going to leave that dot style nav there in front of the UL and hit my enter key. I'm going to go to the text properties and scroll down until I find text decoration and hit none. Come on, none. File, save all. Text decoration, what else do we need to do there? Is the text correct? Let's go back to Photoshop and let's take a look at what our text is. Yep, it's the same font. That's already picked for you. That's good. And it's just simply black. So we've got no text decoration. And we also need to set the list style type as none. And that's under your text properties too. It's down underneath the vertical align and the list style position, list style image, and then list style type. I'm going to choose none. And woohoo, those dots are gone. So now we're going to go to that LI tag, because this LI tag is specific to the word services in gallery and the crew and the contact. And they need to be black and they don't need to be underlined. So I'm going to put my cursor in that LI tag. And once again in the selectors, hit the plus sign. Now, style nav ULLI. I'm going to leave it exactly like that. And go to text decoration, hit none. And then we want to turn the text black. Nothing's happening. Why is that? Can somebody look at that code and tell me why that's not working? What is the word services surrounded by? What are the tags directly in front of it and directly after it? You can't see the code? Let's make it bigger. There is a, let's make this code bigger so you guys can see it. There it is. Can you see that code now? Okay. So what is the word services surrounded by? Oops, I accidentally hit my enter key there. It's surrounded by A tags, right? These little A tags here. It bumped this down to the next row because it won't all fit on my screen. See if I can make this a little bit smaller. There we go. So that's an anchor tag. So I need to put my cursor in there and then hit the plus sign in my selectors. So I get that ULLI rule. Hit my enter key. And then I can go to the text properties. Set my text decoration to none. Set my font to black. And I can space it out. Looking at our mock-up, there's a bit of space in the cell phone view between the words. So we need to add that. You can do that by setting the line height. You can set it to percentage. You can set it to pixels. If you set it to percentage, it's a little more responsive. Doesn't always work as well like that. Why? Well, we're doing the A tag. The A tag is inside what? Let's go back up to that style nav ULLI and set our line height there. Think boxes, guys. This is why I said yesterday, wrapping your head around boxes will make things a little simpler. So our initial box had dots on it, right? When we actually clicked in one of these links, you could see the dots on the outside of that UL box. Well, that means they're connected to that box. So it was the UL, we had to do list style type none. The LI still wraps itself around those little words. Oops, let's go to the LI. One big box around the word services. But we couldn't underline it, and we couldn't turn the text black because technically services wasn't inside that box. It was inside the anchor tag box. And the anchor tag box is what was inside the LI box. Are you following me? And that's why in the LI, we had to set the spacing because that's the outside box. Are you guys following that? You kind of, can you understand what I'm saying there? Okay, so we've got our spacing down. We've got our logo done. Looky there. We're good for cell phone view. We need to work on our mobile view now, right? So let's take a look at our styles.css. I'm going to file, save all. And we can see if we scroll down through these rules, the changes we've made. There's our background color. There's our logo. There's our column. There's our style nav UL, which is not supposed to be there. I accidentally hit the plus sign twice. I'll just erase that. Well, there is our style nav UL. That's where we took off the list style type. We set it to none. Here is our style nav ULLI. This is where we took off text decoration. We set the color to black, and we set the line height to 172%. So we got our spacing. And then we have the ULLIA. That's our anchor tag, because our color didn't work when we set it in the ULLI. Neither did the text decoration. Technically, I can delete those. Doesn't matter if they're there. You don't have to worry about getting rid of those. It's not going to affect anything. The anchor tag is where we had to take off the text decoration and we had to set the font color. So now, if you scroll down further into that CSS styles, you see this comment that's grayed out. This is tablet view. Anything under that comment, that's what that is. That's what that gray means. That's a comment. It's not actually part of your code. It's just a comment to help the programmer, you or a future programmer, figure out what's going on in that website. Well, this is the CSS for specifically for the tablet view. And it says at media, meaning the device that person is being viewed on, the minimum width is 768 pixels. The max width is 778 pixels. So this gray bar that we moved earlier, right here, I'm going to grab it again. And we're going to come out to 778 pixels. Or thereabouts, somewhere between 768 and 778. You're going to drag that gray bar out so that now you're looking at the tablet view, because that's where we're going to work right now. So in tablet view, we need to do a few things. It only has 2 rules. We need to set a few more rules, because what happens to our navigation bar in tablet view? It's supposed to be horizontal, right? It's supposed to stretch across the screen and not be stacked on top of each other. So we have to change that. So I am going to go over, and what rule do you think would control that? You've got the nav rule, but remember the nav is kind of like the giant box for the navigation. Inside that nav box, you then have a UL box, which contains all of your list items. It's those list items that need to be side by side, right? So we click on this. There's your list items. They're stacked on top of each other instead of sitting side by side. And then you have the giant box, which is your UL. But what's causing it to stack is the list boxes. See how they're stacked on top of each other? We need to make that so they sit side by side. So we're going to go over to this UL, this dot style nav ULLI rule. We're going to click on it. And then you're going to right click. And you're going to go to duplicate into media query. And you're going to choose the minimum width 768. And then you're going to go up here. Get my pen. To your media box. Make sure you click on minimum width 768. It's going to change your selector box. So now you're just going to see the body HP banner and the style-nav ULLI rule. You have to make sure you're in the right media query when you're editing these rules. Dreamweaver doesn't automatically know. So you have to make sure you're in the right place when you change settings. I'm just going to click on that style-nav ULLI. And I'm going to set the display. Inline block. Woohoo! Look what happened. It automatically went horizontal, but we need to stretch it out, don't we? So let's set a margin. I'm going to set a right margin. Look what happens there. Make sure my text is set to center. That looks good. So there's your navigation bar, at least in desktop view. I mean in tablet view. So we have it done in tablet, we have it done in cell phone. So next is our desktop view. I'm going to take this navigation rule that we just edited. Once again, right click, duplicate into media query, and I'm going to duplicate it into the minimum width 1024. And then this gray bar, once again, you're going to grab it and drag it all the way back across the screen so that we have our desktop view. And then we're going to come up and click on our desktop media query, this medium width 1024. So now we should see HP, the body HP banner and the style nav, the style nav ULLI. Click on it. And what do we need to do here? Do we actually need to do anything? Whoop, yeah, I think we do. But does it need to be to the LI rule? Because what happens on the desktop view? What looks different in the header? We have to do a few things, don't we? What's the first thing we need to look at? Our logo, right? It should be where? To the left. So I need to go back and go to my original rules. Right here. First thing you're going to do is click on styles.css. Click on it. And you choose it, and look there, your entire list of CSS rules come back. So then I am going to find that logo rule. Which rule did we do that with? Did we do it with the header? We set it to left. Think we might have done something wrong. Let's go check out our column rule for just a second. I'll set it in there. I'm going to trash that because in reality, in our little bitty view, this is our cell phone view, that should be centered. I'll go back to my CSS header. That should be centered like that. So that means I need to duplicate that header rule into my desktop. I'm going to click it, duplicate it into my desktop. Now we're also going to have to edit our navigation. So I'm going to take the style logo rule, go ahead and duplicate it into the 1024 size. The style nav UL rule is also going to have to be duplicated because one of those two rules we're going to have to change in order to get things to do what we want them to do. So now that I've done that, I've duplicated all the rules that I think I'm going to need to edit. I'm going to go back and click on that 1024 rule. And there's everything we duplicated. The body, the HP banner were already there. We moved in the dot style nav ULLI, the header, the dot style logo, and the dot style nav UL. We're missing something though. What did I not bring over? The nav. Where is my... We haven't made it yet, have we? Because we didn't use that rule on the desktop. Nope, we haven't. So back to 1024, we're going to have to make a rule. Go to my source code, find that nav rule. There it is. Style.nav. I thought we made that though. Nope, we didn't. It's not there. So I'm going to hit my plus sign. There it is. And I'm going to erase the .row, .column, and leave just .style nav. Hit my enter key. Come on, there it is. And what do we need to do? Let's start at the top. Let's fix our logo. So we need to go to our header rule, go to that text property, make sure it's lined to the left. Yes. And then we need to move our navigation bar to the right. So we're going to go to this dot style nav. I want to center the text so it goes back to being centered. And then if I want to move something to the right and I want it to be even with the logo, what can I do? Remember yesterday when I made those boxes move side by side? It was the float rule, but this time we're going to float right. Look at that. It automatically pushes it right over there, but we need to move it down some, right? You can do that one of two ways. You can do it with the margin or you can do it with the padding. I'm going to use the margin, the top margin. I'm going to set it to %. And I'm going to push it down so that it's about centered with that image. Somewhere right in there. About 6%. And there's your navigation, there's your header. So if I take this gray bar, let's go back and look and see what happens. Whoop, there we go. We changed tablet view. Boom, we changed cell phone view. We're responsive and our header is absolutely 100% complete. So after we've done that, let's do our check marks. Let's make sure we've got everything. Let's see what we're supposed to do here. We located the root folder. We set up our Dreamweaver site. We set up the navigation structure. So part 2. Go to our actual list. Oops. We opened the index page. We didn't do this, did we? We attached the CSS. We styled the header, the navigation logo placement. And we check to make sure the page has been named correctly and the header contents resemble the PSD. We need to do number 2. So let's go back for a second. It should say lawn care and landscaping. Let's go to our source code. Scroll to the top. There it is. Right now, as you see, there's just a little typo there. That should say lawn care and landscaping. And go to File. We're going to save all. We're looking pretty good. So now we're going to go back to our cell phone size so we make sure we're seeing things correctly. And we've done all of this. We made it responsive. And now, guys, you have a choice. You can stop right there and zip it and call it first name, last name, assignment 1, or you can wait until you're completely done with the assignment and assessment and turn in the exact same file for both the assignment and the assessment. If you want to do it that way, just simply name it DS248, week 1, your first and last name, and turn it in both the assignment and the assessment. Just turn in both that zip file twice. You will still get your name correctly points. I just think it's a little confusing to have to stop in the middle of what you're doing and zip a file and turn it in and then go back. So I'm giving you that option. If you want to just keep going, they can be the exact same thing. Just turn in the entire site root folder for both the assignment and the assessment. So you just complete everything and then turn in the same file and just name it DS248 week 1, your first and your last name. So that does it for the assignment. So let's look at the assessment. We're going to be doing the footer now and changing title tags and renaming things. So let's set up our footer first. Let's go back to Dreamweaver. We've saved everything. We're going to go down here to the footer. Let's see what it looks like. Right now it looks like this. And we've got a div class row, a div class column. And let's take a look at our Photoshop because oops, our social media icons are on the top. And then they're on the right. So we need to rearrange this a little bit. There's our paragraph. Inside that column, you could do this in one column and create another div tag, or you could simply create an additional div tag inside the row. That's what I'm going to choose to do because it's a little easier to control CSS wise than trying to have a div column inside of a div column, if that makes sense. So I'm going to find that the closing tag for that div column. Remember, if you click on the tag, it's automatically going to highlight the end tag. So I'm going to put my cursor after it, hit your enter key so that you're in that blank space. And I'm going to do a div tag down here. div class equals, and I'm going to call it social. For social media, we'll do social dash media. And put that bracket, and it gives me my closing tag. So inside this is where I am going to have my image tags, right? That's where we're going to put our images. There's 3 of them. The first one was Facebook, and then Pinterest, and then Twitter. So I'm going to do the image tag here. IMG, a space, and SRC, which stands for source. Once you see it in this little drop down here, if you just hit your enter key, it'll automatically give you the equal sign in your quotations. And then just click on browse. It opens up your Finder. Now, inside your site root folder is where your social media icons are, inside that images folder that's in your site root folder. I'm going to click on the Facebook icon and hit open. Okay, Raven. And then I'm going to hit the space bar, and I'm going to go ahead and add the alt text so you don't have to do all of that in week 4. It gets kind of confusing when you have to go back and search your code to put in alt text. So just do it as you're inserting these social media icons. And I'm just going to do Facebook link. And then put my bracket on the end of it. Well, there's one. And hit my enter key, and it's the exact same code. SRC. Browse, and this time it's Pinterest, alt text, and oops, Pinterest link, and then one more time, IMG, oops, not spell check, SRC, browse, and Twitter. Alt text, Twitter link. There are my social media. Look at that, they're right there. They're not in the right place though, are they? They should be above this. So I need to actually move this code. We should have put it above that div tag. Right here after row. Like that. Sorry about that, guys. This is backwards from the way I would have designed it, but we're okay. So social media in there, right underneath the row tag, right above that div class column. So now we need to set some rules, right? Yep, we're going to have to do the float rule, and we're going to do it on the social media div tag. I'm going to put my cursor in that tag, come over to my selectors, and I'm going to hit the plus sign. Now, it doesn't need to float in cell phone view. It's supposed to be centered. So I'm just going to go into my text properties, center it, and I'm going to add a margin so I can space them out a little bit. I'm just going to add a right margin. Let's see if it'll let me. Nope, won't let me space it out there. I have to do the image tag, so I have to do it individually. So there's the social media to center it. We've got that taken care of. So I'm going to click in that image tag, hit my plus sign. Now, I don't want to affect every single image tag. So I just want to do the ones that are within that social media div tag. So I'm going to leave .social media in front of the IMG tag so that it tells the web browser, hey, only the IMG tags that are in the social media div tag, only change those. That's what we want. So I'm going to go to my text properties, center everything again, and then go to those margins and space them out a little bit. I'm going to do about 50 pixels. Like that. So there is our social media for our footer. Let's take a look at what else that footer is supposed to look like in cell phone view. Our text is supposed to be white, and it's supposed to be centered as well. So it's the P class, and you see this P tag has a class, the footer text. That is what we're going to be setting our color and our alignment and our spacing. Does it matter the order of your social media icons? The directions tell you to do it just like the PSD mockup, which is Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter. But if you make a mistake, I'm not going to count off for that, guys. As long as they're in the right position, doesn't really matter to me what order they're in. So we're going to set this footer text rule to change our text color of our copyright statement. I'm going to erase everything except for dot footer text. Go to my text properties, set it to white. Ta-da! And center it. And if we look at this PSD, it shows multiple lines, but this view, let's see how big this view is. It's at 480. And we are not at 480. If I go down to 480, there. Yep, that looks pretty close. I think it could use a top margin. I think it's a little close to those social media icons for my liking. I'm going to add a top margin and just push that down just a little bit. So it gives it a little more white space there. But there it is. So there's your footer in your cell phone size at least. Now we need to work on our tablet view, right? So we're going to go to tablet view. Let's pull up our PSD. That footer in tablet view is the exact same thing. There's really no changes at all. So no changes. We're good there. So let's go to desktop. Now in desktop view, there are some changes. The text goes left, social media goes right. Scroll down so we can see this. So we are going to have to send over our social media rule. So we're going to duplicate into the 1024 media query, which is our desktop. And we're also going to duplicate the footer text into our 1024 desktop. And then once again, we're going to go up and click on this 1024 media query rule. Click on it. And you scroll down, the rules you just duplicated should be at the very bottom. So let's take a look at our social media first. We need to float it to the right, right? Float it over there, and look what happens. That's cool. Except for this is a little too big, isn't it? So we're going to go down to our footer text. If we look at our PSD, what would you say the width is? Because technically we've made two columns in this footer area. One column is the social media icon. It's in a div box. It's a box inside that big footer box. And we have the paragraph box. So how much is this paragraph box taking up? Just a little over 50%, right? Because we know these boxes are set at 50%. About 55%. Yep, I think so too. So I'm going to go to this footer text rule. I'm going to go to the layout properties. And let's see, we're at desktop. I'm going to set the width. Percent 55. Look what's happening there. Yay! We did it. We've done it just simply by setting that to 55%. So now we will go into live view. We look at our, whoops, what did I do? I set that to 0. 55%. There we go. Sorry about that. So we've done it. There's our desktop view of our footer. If we look at it in live view, everything looks great except for, what's wrong? Now your directions do not tell you that you have to set up the home page, but guys, I'm going to tell you now, if you will go ahead and set up these columns to be what they're supposed to be, and your desktop size and your tablet size, because they're correct, in your cell phone size. In cell phone, they're perfect. They're exactly the way they're supposed to be. But when you're in tablet view, they are not. In tablet view, they are supposed to be side by side. So if we look at our split code again, let's save all real quick. And let's go back to the top. I'm going to close some things so it makes it easier for me to view the main content code. See these little triangles next to your numbers? That will allow you to close sections. So if I hit the triangle next to header, it closes the entire header div tag. That entire tag, from the opening tag to the ending tag, it will close for me. Which means now all I can see is my main stuff, which is what I wanted. So we have our first row. We know that first row is the banner image, right? It's this big image here. Definitely not big enough. That's going to be the HP banner rule. So let's take a look. It's already set. Make sure you're still selected that 1024. Find that HP banner rule. It says by height 560. That's not 560. So you set your minimum pixels to 560. So it's still not quite big enough. Oh, that's max. Whoops. Minimum height. There it is. 560. 560. Still doesn't look big enough. Nope, doesn't look big enough. What's blocking it? Oh, we need some spacing. That's what's going on there. Let's go back and look at our Photoshop. And it doesn't have the words on here though. It should say no. Did I turn off a layer by accident? Oops, maybe I did. There we go. If that's not turned on in yours, guys, you need to turn it on. So it wasn't turned on in mine. I'm guessing it's not turned on in yours. There it goes. So lawn care landscaping is at the top. No yard tube, small or large, it should be towards the bottom. So let's see. That is the H1 tag. Yes, right there. So I'm going to add a selector for it. And I'm going to erase the dot column and just leave the dot HP banner H1. And go to text properties and line height. It's not going to allow me to move it there because there's only one thing in there. Let's go to our margins. Let me move it there. No. Padding. H1, H1, H1. Okay, what else is set here? Hold on. So boxes, just yes, yes. space. Nope, I didn't think so. White space. Letter spacing is fine. Text decoration line, line height. This should be working. File, save all. It's not. H1, did I miss something? No. I think it's connected to, let's see if I can work around it. Hold on a second. Now let's see if they'll let me move it. It doesn't let me move it there, but will let me add padding to it now. Nope. That means a few line breaks. I don't want to do that. Where's my position? We're gonna do absolute. It's not letting me move the position either. Clear all. I think my Dreamweaver's stuck. Yeah, look at that. I can't even set a padding on the right or the left. My Dreamweaver is stuck and I don't know why. This may very well happen to you guys. Let's do border box. See if I can force it down. It wants to move, but it's still not moving. Okay, the workaround for that, guys, if you run into the same trouble, most likely you will. That's the thing about downloading files and trying to work on them, is to add a couple of line breaks in there until you push that down. I don't know why it won't let me add any of that. Usually it does not stick here. It sticks, but usually it's not here. Nope, it's not gonna let me move it. It's stuck. So I'm gonna add some line breaks in here. If yours sticks, it may not, guys, and you should be able to just move it with the margin. But if yours is stuck as well, just add some line breaks in there to get it in an approximate position. Almost. Now it's not letting me move it anymore. Let's go back up here to this HP banner. That's better. I think that's about as close as I'm gonna get it. without resizing it a little bit more. And then of course you've got this read more. That is here. So I'm just going to simply add a couple of line breaks right after it. Like that. And just kind of get that approximate position going on, and it will be fine. Same thing with your inspiration gallery. Let's see if we can get it to work. It is the column, medium, 1/2 column. Now, according to our mock-up, that is supposed to be a light blue color. Let's see what color that is. 80. Paste. And then our green. Paste. And these are supposed to be big. This is the info box tan. That doesn't make any sense. Info box tan is supposed to be blue. Okay, let's see if that rule happens to be in our styles. We're going to click on styles.css to go back to all of our CSS rules. And there it is, info box tan, background color. Oh, wrong color. It should be 80. Pound 80 PCEV. Should be blue. And there is no height. About 300 pixels, I think. That one worked. See how that works? And then we have our H2. Let's see, how is this supposed to look? It's in white. Our H2 is pretty big, and they're just spaced out on top of each other. So I'm going to hit the selector for that H2. Info box tan H2. I'm going to erase the rest of that. Delete the dot info box H2. Text. White. Centered. It's not quite big enough though. Font size. Oh, too big. Should look more like that. And the font family was more narrow. So let's see what we can find here. It was more like Helvetica. And the font style was normal. Actually, it was kind of thin. Font weight, lighter. It was more like that. Let's see what's normal. That's normal. I'm thinking it looks kind of thin. Thinner than that. And it should be all caps. So I am going to go down and find it's not small caps. It's actual caps. Stop that. Font weight, font size, line height, line indent, text transform. There it is. I want uppercase. And then turn this down. About that. Did it stretch all the way across? Looking at tablet view. It didn't. Except for right now we're in cell phone view. I need to go a little smaller. That's too big. Three is too much, so 2 will have to do, and it looks a little spaced out. See my line how it works here. And our words, our letters look a little spaced out. So you're going to go down and find your letter spacing. Change it to pixels. And I'm just going to spread that out just a little bit like that. 5 pixels, no big deal. And then that next set of text is white as well. And then the read more button should be under it. So that is our P tag. My selector, info box 10, the P tag, text properties, set it to white. That's done, and I'm going to add 2 line breaks right after it to move that button down. So we're looking pretty good there. Let's look at our PSD and see. Yeah, we're looking pretty good. It's our cell phone view. There we go. Yeah, we're looking pretty good. It needs to be a little bit more space at the top, it looks like. There, so I'm going to go back to my info box 10 rule. Oops. And I'm going to turn up that padding a little bit. Like that, so I get it more centered there. We're going to do the exact same thing to the next box. This one's the info box dark. Info box dark. Set our background color. It should be pound 144618. To enter key, it's green. And I want to copy some of these styles. So I really want to copy them all. I'm going to right click on it and I want to copy the layout styles. And click on layout styles, go to info dark and go to paste styles. Let's see, is there anything else I need to copy? Copy the text styles. Paste styles. Oh, it turns to black. Whoops. Let's turn that back white. Here we go. And then we have this H2 tag. I'm going to hit the plus sign. Erase everything except for that H2. My enter key. And I'm going to go to this tan H2 and simply copy all styles. Go down to the dark one and paste styles. And then go to the paragraph tag and do the exact same thing. Hit that plus sign, erase everything except for info box dark with the P. Go back out to the info box tan P rule, copy all styles, and paste styles. And then add my 2 line breaks right after it. There's my 2 boxes. Yay! Save all. We're getting there. Now we have these 2 images. In cell phone view, these images are supposed to be 100%, right? So we need to fix that. Let's see. These are column large 1/4. Here's the class. Here's the div class. Column medium, column large 1/4. It's the column rule we need to find. We made that earlier. COL dot column width percent, not 1100, 100. My enter key. Now we have a problem with this IMG inside here. It's not stretching to fit that content box. I'm going to put my cursor in that tag, my plus sign, and start erasing some of this so I can find it later. it should be, oh, we can't do it that way. We're going to need to specify this a little bit more. Like give this a class would be the easiest way. So I'm going to do class equals I'm going to do COL dash, oops, dash images like that. And I'm going to make this rule. And set the width %. 100. And I'm going to apply this class to every single image. So I'm going to put my cursor in front of the alt tags and just type class equals quotations COL images space. There's that one. And then the next one. Class equals COL images space. And one more. Class equals quotation COL images space. Refresh. Now all of my pictures are 100% the way they are supposed to be in cell phone view. So look at that. It looks exactly like our mock-up. You're almost there. The rest of it is pretty easy. We're going to go to our split screen and go to your 768, your tablet view. Now, according to our mock-up, tablet view, everything's supposed to be 222, except for the large banner image. Okay, we can do that. Our large banner image is already up there. We're good. So it's this rule, which is the info box 10. There you go. I'm going to click on info box 10, right click, duplicate 768. And then we need to do the info box dark, duplicate 768. And then I need to do the, what was around those images? It's going to be the column medium 1/2, and I don't know, it's not in here yet. So we'll have to make it in that media query. So once again, you're going to click on the media minimum width 768 under the media query. So you see those rules. There's the info box 10. Well, there's no height. There's a height now, but the width's not set. We need to set that. And set it to 50%. Look at there. Woohoo! We have to up that height a little bit, huh? It's not quite enough. So we could up that height just a little. There's that one. So now let's go to dark. That percent 50. Nothing happened. Well, in the tan box, we need to do what? We need to float it, right? In the dark box, we need to float it. Here it is. We need to make them the same height, though. So 338. There's our boxes. Looks like we need to go back and get this text so we can shrink it down. Is it supposed to be on one line or two? It's supposed to be on one. So we're going to have to go back to our style CSS, find that info box H2, duplicate it into your 768, and click back on 768. There's the H2. We're going to go down, text properties, 2M. too small there. Line height, too much. Let's shrink that down. There. And then our letter spacing. Like that. Let's even it up. That's good. Like that. So there's those two boxes. So now we have to worry about these boxes. That's where this column medium 1/2 rule comes in. The column rules applies when it's cell phone size. The column medium 1/2 applies when it's tablet, and the column large 1/4 applies when it's desktop. So we need to make this rule. So I'm going to hit my plus sign. And I'm going to erase everything except for dot column medium 1/2. So that means I have to erase stuff in front of it and after it. Hit my enter key. Got my layout. This should be set to 50%. 5, 0. And it needs to float left. Look what's happening. Except for something happened to our crew. Oh, that is set to medium 1/2. Why? That's not correct. You need to delete that rule. Refresh. Needs to be deleted off both those info boxes. There's the dark. There's the light. That should not be there. So there's those two boxes. And there's those two boxes. We're looking pretty good. Now on this column medium 1/2, I want to add a little bit of padding at the bottom of it so it pushes that footer down a little bit. Like that. So in live view, here's our tablet view. We're looking pretty good. Except for we added too much space there. This should go back up just a little like that. They're supposed to have little lines between them, right? Yes. So make sure those are 6 and 10. So this one should be 10 too. Like that. We're looking pretty good. Actually, this should be 5 top, 5 bottom. Like that. Let's go 5 and 5 all around. That looks better. So there's our boxes in our tablet view. Now, why am I having you do it this week? Because next week, guys, not only do you have to do this, you have to set up some other pages. If you go ahead and do these rules this week, guess what? That's half the work you have to do next week. And it's just kind of all in line. So while you're in here, just do it. It'll save you a lot of time, especially in week 3 and 4 when you're doing all of your pages. Big portion of it will already be done because you did these rules this week. So that's cell phone size. So now let's do desktop. 2 and 2, but our medium 1/4 is the only rule that needs to change. So we're going to duplicate it into the 1024. Click on 1024 under the media box and go down to column medium 1/4, and it should be 25%. And look at there. It's done. You're done. All done. File. Save all. Now we've got about 5 minutes left and you are completely done with your assignment and assessment. Go into code view. Right now you've got it saved as your index page. We have to save it as all of your other pages. So I'm going to close my main and open my header. We need to save it first as the services.html. So go to File, go to Save As, and do Services. Remember, lowercase file names. Services.html. Make sure you're in your site root folder. You should be able to see your images folder, your index folder, and your style CSS. Hit your enter key. It opens that styles. According to our directions, we have to change the title to Lawn Care Landscaping Services. So right here in your title tag, Lawn Care Landscaping Services. Lawn Care Landscaping Services. File, save all, file, save as, and next up is your gallery page, right? Yes, gallery page. So it's gallery.html. Save. And then our directions say to change the title tag to Lawn Care Landscaping Gallery. So I'm just going to change services to read gallery. Go to File, Save All. And then File, Save As, and do crew. Change the title tag to say Meet the Lawn Care Landscaping Crew. So meet the Lawn Care Landscaping Crew. File, save all. File, save as. Contact.html. And change the title tag to say Contact Lawn Care Landscaping. Contact Lawn Care Landscaping and delete crew. File, save all. Now we need to test and look at this in our browser. So you're going to go to File, and you're going to go to Real-Time Preview, and you're going to hit Google Chrome. It's going to pull it up in your web browser. Test your titles. Contact Lawn Care Landscaping. I'm on the contact page right now. So let's click on the services. Lawn Care Landscaping Services. My header and my footer look good. I'm going to grab my web browser and shrink it down. I switched to tablet view. Now I switch to cell phone view. Check my header and footer. Yep, they're good. So that page is done. Gallery. Lawn Care Landscaping Gallery. If it worked responsive-wise on your services page, guys, it works responsive-wise on every page. You just need to be checking your titles. So the crew, Meet the Lawn Care Landscaping, and it says crew after it. Contact us, contact Lawn Care Landscaping. You're done. Woohoo! So you close out all of your tabs. Guys, make sure you close them before you try and zip your file. Otherwise, you're going to send it to me and it's going to say, I'm sorry, this zip file is corrupt. Close your tabs first. Then you're going to go to your desktop, which is somewhere behind all this stuff. Double click on that, your Student Start folder. You're going to go to your site root folder. Right click on it and go to compress. It's going to compress it. And then you're just going to rename it Week 1, your first and last name. And then turn that exact same file in for the assignment and the assessment. Just upload it twice. Yes, everything that is in the site root folder gets zipped together. So it will have your contact, your crew, your gallery, and your index HTMLs, your services HTML, your style sheet, and your images. So just zip that entire site root folder, the one that says DS248 Lawn Care Site. And then just turn that exact same file in for the assignment and the assessment. Just name it week 1. Your first and last name, and you'll get credit for naming it correctly. That way you don't have multiple zip files trying to figure out what's what and getting lost. It becomes very confusing. That's why I'm telling you now, put that folder, your student start file, somewhere it can stay for the next 4 weeks. Because once you move it, you're in trouble. Because you have to reset up that entire site if you move that folder. And instead of duplicating that folder every week and files get corrupted and that sort of thing, use the exact same file every single week. So you're going to use this site root folder the entire time. You're just going to zip it every time and rename it. And instead of making 2 files, having to stop halfway through coding and zip it for the assignment, just turn in the exact same file for the assignment and the assessment. I'll grade the assignment part for the assignment and the assessment part for the assessment. Don't worry, you're not going to get counted off if you did something wrong for the assessment on the assignment. I will grade them according to what you were supposed to get done. I think that will make it easier and less confusing than what's happened in past classes. Any questions, guys? Again, I will post a recording. It'll probably take an hour, hour and a half for Zoom to process it so I can post it. But the recording will be there so you can rewatch it and follow along with me if you need to. But I encourage all of you to try this out, at least some of it out yourself first, just so you can kind of gauge where you are and what your understanding is. And yes, I will be in the SSC on Thursday from 8 to 11 p.m. Mountain Time, and on Friday from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. Mountain Time. So if you need help, I am in there. And Christy is our learning coach. Her schedule is posted in the announcements. She is also in the SSC. So if you have trouble, if you're struggling, guys, don't get frustrated. Review the lecture, see if you can figure out what your issue is, and if not, email me, come see me in the SSC. Don't yell at yourself, get overly frustrated, because then it just gets harder to learn this stuff. So don't go there. Just shoot me an email and say I'm stuck. This is what's happening. This is not what's happening. Because guys, I'm here to tell you, sometimes you're doing absolutely everything correctly, and Dreamweaver's just being a 2-year-old. You just saw it on my screen. It worked on one div tag and not the other, and they were the exact same. It's just Dreamweaver sometimes. So don't get frustrated. Email me, tell me what's happening, because I can usually say, that's Dreamweaver being stupid. Just ignore it and keep going, because when I open it, it's going to be fine. All right, guys, then we will call it an evening, and I will see you guys on Sunday if you can make it. If not, the recording will be posted as soon as I'm done with that lecture. But yes, get started early, especially the first time. It takes you a little bit to kind of get in that mode. So do that tutorial we did at the beginning, that little practice. It just kind of puts your brain in coding mode. You wouldn't believe, sometimes it can be 3 or 4 months before I code a website. And I actually do that little practice file before I start building these gigantic websites. Why? Because sometimes I just have to put my brain in that mode. And doing one of those little practice files does that. All right, guys, good night. Good night, Brian.